the hit though. Mackie got the hit though.
Hi everyone, TJ with the short here. And I know what I need to say, but I don't know how to start this video off. So just bear with me as I try to get to where I need to go. But this video right here is for people who feel like they're lost, feel like they've done the absolute most and they don't deserve God's love, and God doesn't love them, or they've reached that point where they've done so much that they can't be forgiven for what they've done. So I'm just going to break down a few things, and hopefully one or two people can be helped by this video. So I feel like the biggest problem with a lot of people is their perception of God, because a lot of people tend to think God operates like us humans. Because you as an individual, you feel like, okay, let's say someone wrongs you, does something bad to you. Like you're like, yo, please don't do this to me. And then they repeatedly do bad things to you, right? And you get to a point where like, I can't forgive this person because they're constantly doing bad things to me. You can't forgive this person because they've done something that was really bad to you. And a lot of people think that God is like that, and they try limit God's power, his capacity to forgive, and his love. They try limit that. And because of that, they feel like what they do to God or how they live their life gets them to a point where God can forgive them. And I'm here to tell you right now that no matter what you've done, look, I don't know what you've done. I know what I've done. Because, yeah, I don't know what you've done, but what I can tell you is God is real and he loves you no matter what. Whatever it is that you may have done and you think is really bad and cannot be forgiven, God already forgave you for that. And it's hard to wrap your mind around something like that simply because you're a human being and you can't imagine yourself forgiving someone for doing something really bad to you. And God wouldn't be God if we could understand how he works, if we could put a ceiling on how high his power is. So because of that, you need to realize that even though it seems completely impossible for you to be forgiven for all the bad things that you've done, it's possible because God is God and his love for you is bigger than all the bad things that you've done. And for a lot of you, you've distanced yourself from God, and it's mostly because of all the stuff that you've done, and you feel like you can't even begin to get back to him because you're just so far gone. And I'm here to tell you today that God is actually waiting for you. He's waiting for you to come back to him because he loves you so much, and it hurts him to see you living the life that you live in right now. And a lot of you are in places or in situations that you don't even want to be in, but you've kind of gotten comfortable being in a specific type of trauma, a specific type of hurt, and even a cycle of addiction and all these bad things. Like, you've gotten comfortable in that. And even though deep down you're like, I really wish I could get back to God, or I really wish I could make a connection with God because I don't want to live like this anymore. You just can't seem to wrap your mind around the fact that God can actually forgive you for the wrong that you've done. And I think the best way to actually give you an illustration of God and yourself in this particular situation is to read something from the Bible. One thing I really like about the Bible is that the stories that are in there, they're deeper than they appear. Because, like, everything in the Bible can be interpreted and applied to our own personal lives in different ways. So it's just really crazy that something that was written so long ago can have such deep meaning in today's society and in our lives today. So for now, I'm gonna be talking about the story of the prodigal son, right? Bear in mind everything I was saying before and listen as I read the story real quick. So this is in Luke 15, verse 11. So there was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my shares of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he had begun to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, and filled with compassion for him, he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against you and against heaven. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Okay, so in this story, we're hearing about someone who was living good already, and he decided to take off and live life his own way, try to do his own thing, and then that didn't really turn out well for him because everything kind of hit rock bottom, and he started suffering. And then in his mind, he's not like, yo, like, life was good where I was at, and here I am suffering right now. Like, this was a terrible mistake. And in his head, he was thinking, like, I've just done the worst thing that I could possibly do. Okay, let me go back to my father, but what I've done is this really bad. And that's kind of what a lot of us are like, because in most cases, a lot of us were born in families that are pretty religious, and we grow up learning about God, and we know God, and we kind of choose to go off on our own path, and then we end up in really bad situations. We do really bad things. And yeah, and for other people, they're just kind of already born in situations where they're distant from God. But I want you to look at the story as you being the prodigal son, the son who left, right? And I want you to look at the father as, well, the father. I want you to look at that as God. Because even though you made the decision to leave, or even though you are not where he's at right now, and life is going really bad, you're suffering from anxiety, depression, like a lot of different stuff is just going on with you, and like you're constantly craving peace of mind, you're constantly craving to go back to having a good life, right? You need to realize that all you need to do is make that decision to go back to the Father. And a lot of you think that going back to the Father, you're going to get there and he's going to be like, why did you leave in the first place? And you're going to get punished or something. See, he was already setting out his own punishment. He was like, make me your servant. But like, look at how the Father received the Son when he came back. He was happy. He was like, yo, let's have a feast to celebrate. My son is back. And that's really what it is, that God is really waiting for you to come back to him. And you just need to make that decision by yourself that, look, I don't want to live like this. Because a lot of the time, we kind of feel like we can handle ourselves. We feel like we're powerful enough to live lives without God. Like we don't need to be where he's at for life to go good. And for a long time it can go good. He started off, he had that inheritance money. He was good and he was doing his thing, but how long? How long can that actually last for? Because a lot of you are seeing signs and symptoms that you need to start going back to God, but you're ignoring them, and you want to wait until you reach rock bottom to then go back to God. Because he got to a point where he hit rock bottom, and then he was like, now it's time for me to go back. And you could be somewhere in the middle, but you can go back right now, because you don't need to keep going through the stuff that you're going through. God literally sent his son to die on the cross for all of our sins so that they can be forgiven. For all the sickness, for all the problems, for literally anything that you can think of that you're going through, all of that stuff is not supposed to be where you at. And you just need to go back to God. It's actually simpler than a lot of you may think, because you think that you need to automatically, turn your life around and be this perfect Christian. I mean, newsflash, no one is actually perfect. Like, I make these videos. I am nowhere near perfect. No one is perfect, but there's room for growth in all of us, and we can only achieve that growth and transformation if we let God into our lives, or if we go back to where he's at. So yeah, something to think about. It's really something to think about, because some of us actually kind of go back. Like, let's say your body is full of mud, and let's take the mud, but like metaphorically, and it's like full of all these different type of problems, and you want to wash all that stuff off. And let's say God is the water, there's a water body, and like you want to wash away all your problems. A lot of us, we just kind of go back to God. So we put our foot into the water, and then our foot gets clean, and like our problems are partially solved, and you know, we walk away from the water and then we go back, and then our foot gets dirty again, and then you just go back and you dip your foot in. Next time you dip your leg in. But like, you need to completely surrender yourself to God if you want all of your problems to go away. And the biggest problem as well is that people want results overnight. Like, they want their problems to go away like this, but it's a continuous process which requires your trust and your faith to be in God. And look, I don't know why it is that way, but that's just how it is. Like, you can't understand how God was, but that's just how it is. You need to surrender yourself and have faith that things are gonna get better, that your problems are gonna get solved, and you need to keep the right mindset. And I guarantee you that stuff will actually begin to get better. See, and a lot of us were stuck in situations where we're trying to get solutions from all the wrong places, from all the wrong people. Because think about it like this: if your problems could be solved by people or by all the things you've been doing that are not God, wouldn't your problems be solved by now? Wouldn't you be feeling better? Wouldn't you be in a better situation? But instead, it's really just been an endless cycle. And what the world tends to do is that you give it a chance and you try and make that your main source for solutions, and all it's going to do is take and take and take from you. Like, if you, for example, like, use smoking or drinking alcohol as your escape from your problems, you can drink today, get drunk, and wake up, and your problem is still gonna be there. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna go the next day, buy more alcohol, and like, the cycle continues and the problem stays there. God is the only one powerful enough to break that cycle, to solve whatever problem that you're going through, to give you the strength to get over whatever it is you're going through. See, in the Bible, Jesus refers to himself. There's a time when he's referring to himself as water. Like, if you drink, he says, if you drink this water, like referring to if you use stuff in the world for your solutions, you will be thirsty again. He says, if you drink this water, you'll be thirsty again. And he says, but whoever drinks the water I give them, if you use God as the one to solve your problems, he says, if you drink this water, you will not be thirsty again. He's saying that with him, all the problems that you have actually come to an end. And all that I'm saying actually is that you just need to give him the chance to do it. So we're living in a world right now where stuff is really upside down, and a lot of people are confused about what to do because they're feeling all sorts of emotions. They're feeling some type of way, and I'm here to tell you and direct you to the Father, to God, because that's where you need to be at. And I feel like a lot of you're not seeing this video by mistake. This is it for you. This is that reminder that you needed, that look, God is out there, he's waiting for you, and you're not too far gone to be forgiven. You're not too far gone to live within his blessing, because when you're out there in the wilderness, like when you've left God to go do your own thing, that's when you start feeling like you don't have a purpose. So you start feeling depressed and all sorts of different things because you're away from your creator, you're away from the person that gives you life, you know. And when you're away from that, you really feel empty. And like, I'm speaking as someone who suffered from these things, who suffered from feeling purposeless, who suffered from feeling depressed, anxiety, all of that. A lot of the time when I find myself straying away from God, that's when I feel my worst. But the moment I come back to Him, all of that goes away because I'm where I need to be at. I don't feel purposeless because He gives me that sense of purpose and He shows me what I need to be doing with my life. So, whether or not you take this seriously is up to you, but I've said what I've said, and I hope that you give God the chance that He deserves. Because if you really want to turn your life around, this is the way to go. If you want to live better, this is the way to go.
Hands are in front of this paper. But they wanna see me fall, I'm standing tall, you can't see me fail. If I knew what I know now, things wouldn't be this way. If I knew how we go down.